Welcome to Inside the 12, a special Valentine's Day edition. King McClure, you know, it's a Valentine's Day edition, so it's good we got a guy that sounds like Barry White. It's absolutely perfect, right?
Pete, I'm happy to be here, but you know what I love since Valentine's Day? I love the beard, man.
Oh, thank you very much.
I love the beard. It's a good look on you. I think you should wear it more.
You know, my fiance, who I can say now.
Hey, he got engaged. Yeah. Speaking of Valentine's Day, congrats.
She likes it too. I'm Pete Souza. Of course, you know Kings McClure. Let's start you off with the scores from around the Big 12. This was a week. It was a total bonanza, King. You look at number 12, Texas Tech. They beat Arizona State in double overtime. Stayed up late to watch that one. Kansas State over number 13, Arizona, 73-30. BYU beating West Virginia. Your impression of some of these scores?
Man, that 41-point performance by JT Toppin, the Arizona State Texas Tech game, absolutely phenomenal. That was a heck of a game.
Yeah, JT Toppin doing it on the glass with 15 boards, and you mentioned the 41 points. We're going to stick in the spirit of Valentine's Day. We wanted to break down the action by giving each team and player we loved watching the past week. I'm going to start with you.
Kansas State, back-to-back road wins. Saturday, they beat number 16 Kansas, 81-73. Then they beat number 13 Arizona, 73-70. I mean, Coach Jerome Tang has these guys absolutely rolling. He joined the show last week, and you can see the confident spirit that he has and the belief that he has on his team. And they're playing like that every single night, night in, night out. Late game execution is better than it was earlier on in the season. I mean, these guys are terrific. When you look at Doug McDaniel, you look at what Coleman Hawkins is doing, Howson is doing, it is a team effort, and I don't know if these guys have a chance to make it to the tournament, but it's looking more and more for sure, or more and more of a chance every single game.
Let me ask you something. Watching late last game, I think it was David Gasson hits a big layup. It was the end of a huge run for them. They start playing that Sandstorm song. The place, Bramlage Coliseum, is just going crazy. What is that like?
It's hard. I mean, you have to mentally lock in, especially down the stretch. That's why a lot of times in practice, coaches will play like crowd noise. They will just make it super loud in the arena to simulate what you're going to get on the road. And Kansas State, when they're winning like they are right now, that place is one of the toughest places. They call it the Octagon of Doom. When they are winning, the Octagon of Doom is crazy.
That place looks scary. Something else that's scary, the Houston Cougars and their defense. I had the opportunity to see them last Saturday against Colorado. And one of the things, as you know, sometimes when you cover these teams, if you get in early, you get a chance to go to practice. So Houston right now, once again, the tops in the country as far as defensive scoring, right? Around 58 points a game they're holding their opponents. But now they're shooting the three so well. Emmanuel Sharp and L.J. Cryer, I was talking to folks around the program on Friday night, and to a man, everyone says this is the best three-point shooting team they've had in the Kelvin Sampson era. And the best part about watching practice with Houston is it's almost like that movie Hoosiers. They didn't have a basketball like for the last 3 quarters of practice. And at the end of practice, Coach Sampson huddled up his team and he said, "We didn't practice any offense outside of a press break tonight. And the reason is because we're getting away from who we are." That was his message to the team. Are they really? I didn't think so, but that's his message to the team. He says, "We are a defensive team. That's how we're going to win a championship." And you can see it, right? Even though they're playing well offensively, they know who they are. I love Houston.
Pete, how great is Kelvin Sampson?
The best. He is the best. The king of the one-liners, too.
The absolute best. But something I love, you're speaking about physical defenses. Well, when you talk about offense, you talk about a physical running back who was in the league, Edgerrin James, right? His son over there at Cincinnati, Jizzle James, has got it rolling. We talk about Kansas State. Well, this young man is now starting to shoot the three, and he's a major reason why Cincinnati's offense is looking so much better. I mean, the way that he was able to pick apart BYU, his mid-range game is terrific. The pace that he plays at is high level. And if he can knock it down the way he's been knocking it down, and oh my goodness, the stop, the step back, and they give him too much space, and that's where he's starting to get more and more confident from beyond the arc. Teams go under his ball screens. They don't really respect his three because he's so dangerous. Get into the rim, being able to put his body on you like his dad used to do back in the day when he was with Peyton Manning. But that young man is playing terrific, and he is the main reason why Cincinnati is starting to roll. They scored over 90 against UCF. They scored over 80 against BYU. The offense is rolling, and primarily due to Jizzle James.
Well, and they've found the resolve, right? Because of a guy like Jizzle
Yes.
James. They've endured a couple losing streaks, and now here they are, back in the conversation. Somebody else who's always in the conversation, as long as he's healthy, is JT Toppin. He struggled with some injuries earlier this year, so we didn't see him as much as we would have liked to. Arizona State saw way too much of him last night. 41 points, 15 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. This was a double overtime affair. You see Darian Williams dropping it off. When you have a two-headed monster like Williams and Toppin playing towards the front, and the guards that Texas Tech has in the back, you better look out. But JT Toppin is a guy who is finding ways to score now in big games, in big moments. That game against Arizona State last night, it's almost one of those games that I feel like the Red Raiders can really build on because it was a signature win down the stretch. They were supposed to win the game. They warded off an opponent who they were able to handle. Took double overtime, but guys like JT Toppin, still a young guy, just in his second year, continues to develop those battle scars.
And he is learning how to score the basketball. We're seeing it in a variety of ways, stepping out and shooting the three, being able to get to face up in the post, get to his right hand, and still find ways to finish because we know that he's a right shoulder guy. We know he wants to go left to his dominant hand, but the fact that he can now diversify his scoring, get to his right hand, shoot the three, that young man is adding tools to his arsenal, Pete, and I absolutely love that.
A very good reason why Texas Tech could be the team we're talking about when the dust settles. We are just getting started. When we come back, we got Inside the 12 continuing women's hoops with Rachel Galligan. Don't go anywhere.
This Black History Month, the Big 12 Conference has partnered with the Maya Angelou Estate to celebrate the power of leaving a lasting legacy. Student athletes can be seen this month wearing a shooting shirt marked with her inspirational quote, "If you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased." That message, a reminder to the next generation to dream without limits. The conference looks forward to celebrating the impact of Big 12 student athletes throughout the month of February and beyond.
Welcome back to Inside the 12. Joining us now to share her insights on a great week of women's college basketball and what lies ahead, Big 12 ambassador Rachel Galligan. Rachel, thanks for joining us again.
Happy to be here, as always.
Happy to break down the week that was and look forward. And we had a midweek clash of 2 top 25 teams, West Virginia and Baylor. The Bears come out on top to push their winning streak to 5 games. What did you see from Baylor that will allow them to keep challenging teams at the top?
Well, I mean, you guys know this. Every coach in the country is trying to get their team to be playing their best basketball this time of the year. And I think that's what Nikki Collin and what this Baylor team are doing right now. And in that game, they did a great job of controlling the pace. West Virginia really was never able to play their brand of basketball. Baylor forced the game into the half court. They executed offensively with multiple players contributing. They shot 50% from the three-point line. Sarah Andrews and Bella Fauneroy hit 8 of those threes. And they did a really great job of establishing Arinette Vonleh in the paint, which in my opinion was a huge advantage. She ended up leading all scorers with 21 points. So that's 5 wins in a row, a quad 1 win, and just like that, they're currently tied for first place at the top of the Big 12 standings.
Oh, I love when my Bears are doing good. I love the sound of that. But another team with momentum is Utah. They have clicked off 6 wins in a row after beating Colorado by 17 points. What to you stood out about their play Wednesday?
Well, that was a big win for Utah. Colorado has shown time and time again that they can be a major problem in the Big 12. And this Utah team can score it. They're disciplined, they're veteran, and they know what it takes to win late in the season. They shot 51% from the floor. They really set the tone offensively out of the gate and just never looked back. They do such an elite job of sharing the basketball, taking high percentage shots, and also generating consecutive stops. And I've said this before, I'll keep saying it. I think that getting Kennedy McQueen back has been pivotal to this team's team's success and their momentum right now. They were without her for arguably the hardest part of their conference slate, but with her back, like you said, they've now won 6 in a row.
Yeah, and the defensive stops, you get to this part of the season, that is going to be essential to them progressing. Things are starting to really get tight at the top of the Big 12 as other teams progress. You look at the standings, 6 teams all within a game or 2 of each other. How do you see this race in the regular season unfolding over the next few weeks?
Well, I mean, this is really what February conference basketball is all about, right? I mean, it's wild to think just how wide open this thing is right now, and it's really anyone's for the taking. We've got 5 games left. You currently got 3 teams tied at first place, the top of the standings, in Kansas State, TCU, and Baylor at 11-2. And then you got 2 teams currently tied at 1 game back from first place in Utah and Oklahoma State. And then West Virginia, they're sitting at 2 games back. You know, and here's the thing, they're all going to play one another these next couple of weeks. We've got some critical matchups in these final 5 games in the season. In my opinion, more than likely, this is going to come down to the final day of the regular season on March 2nd.
Yeah, we are in for a treat, and we've seen a lot of good basketball. We've also seen a lot of buckets. I mean, the Big 12 has been putting up a lot of points on the scoreboard this season. What has been some of the most impressive performances for you as of late?
Well, I think first you got to start with Audie Crooks, who leads the Big 12 in scoring. She's 6th in the nation, averaging 23 points per game. She's shooting nearly 60% from the floor and set new Iowa State sophomore records for points and made field goals. She became the fastest player in program history to score 1,000 points earlier this season, doing so in just 49 games. I think another storyline, entering this week, the Big 12 led all conferences with individual 30-point performances this season with 30 total. And then you got Oklahoma State. They're the only Division I team with 4 players who've had 30-point games so far this season. And I think finally we have to talk about Gianna Neepkins and Kennedy McQueen again for Utah. Entering this week, they were both a part of the 50-40-90 club, shooting 50% from the floor, 40% from the three-point line, and 90% from the free throw line. That's rare for one player, let alone having 2 from the same team. That's just incredibly impressive.
You mentioned some of those important matchups, right, as this race continues. We've got some important ones coming up next week, Rachel. What are the games that we do not want to miss?
First off, Kansas State at West Virginia on Monday. That's a really quick turnaround for Kansas State, who's going to travel and prep all in one day. I want to see how they're able to handle that tough swing and how West Virginia can respond to their loss to Baylor. West Virginia is a very scary team, especially at home. And then Oklahoma State at Utah on Tuesday. I think that kind of speaks for itself, but this is a big opportunity for Utah to get a ranked conference win at home.
All right, Rachel Galligan, thank you so much for keeping us informed and up to date on exactly what's going on in the Big 12 Women's Basketball Conference and scene. Cannot wait to see some of those games this week.
Yep.
We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
When we return on Inside the 12, we go from the hardwood to the diamond. Time to preview the 2025 Big 12 baseball season, and we'll have ESPN analyst Mike Rooney on to do just that. It's coming up next. Welcome back to Inside the 12. He is King McClure. I'm Pete Souza. And the baseball season is upon us. The 2025 campaign starts this weekend. Joining us now to preview what should be an exciting season for the Big 12 Conference, ESPN college baseball analyst and writer for D1, Mike Rooney. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, great to see you guys. I know it's busy, right? The basketball is like March Madness is right around the corner, but for us baseball folks, this is it's like Christmas Eve. The season is here.
Yeah, well, it was a busy season, a busy shopping season, busy off season for the Big 12 with the additions of Arizona and Arizona State and also Utah. What do those programs bring to what is now a 14-team conference?
Yeah, I would say I'm a college sports fan, and conference realignment's kind of rough on fans at times, but the baseball fan in me, like the Big 12 in baseball, conference realignment has been awesome for the Big 12 in baseball. So you think about, Arizona and Arizona State are the obvious 2 additions where there's 9 national titles between those 2 programs. Arizona State's put more people in the big leagues than any other program. Arizona won the final season of the Pac-12 regular season and conference tournament. And then I would encourage everyone not to sleep on Utah. Very similar to like UCF and Cincinnati coming in the league last year. Utah is like, we've got shovels in the ground for a $30 million baseball facility. So they've been very, very good. I think top to bottom, the Big 12 in baseball is going to be an awesome league.
You know, a team that definitely was not slept on was Oklahoma State. They were voted the top team by the league's head coaches in the 2025 Big 12 baseball preseason poll. What separates the Cowboys from the pack?
Yeah, I'd say consistency. You know, they're in the top 5 nationally out of 300 programs for the longest regional streak that they're on currently. So you just, under Josh Holliday and that excellent coaching staff, you just know they're going to the NCAA tournament every single year. They've hosted 3 straight regionals, which is, you know, an incredible accomplishment. You know, the O'Brate Stadium is one of the marquee venues in college baseball. And then, you know, like this team, they do lose some pitching that's got to get replaced. But you've got a kid like Nolan Schubert, who, like, he could literally be National Player of the Year. This is a 6'5" left-handed hitter who could very easily, not easily, but he, like, 30 home runs is on the table for him.
Yeah, you're getting me excited for this season, dude. Also receiving first place votes, you got Arizona and TCU. What makes the Horned Frogs so dangerous this season?
You know, TCU's they're kind of like the gamble pick, I would say, because last year they were snubbed, right? They didn't make the NCAA tournament, but 2 years ago they're an Omaha team, and the bones of that Omaha team, that College World Series team, those kids are now juniors. So, you know, TCU is hard to figure out because are they who they were 2 years ago or are they who they were last year? But I think like the bones of that Omaha team are still there, and you always would bet on that talent.
You know, I'm a basketball guy, and around this time, one thing that's very prevalent and brought up a lot during March Madness is a dark horse, right? So outside of those top 3 teams we just talked about, who do you have as the dark horse that could make some noise in the Big 12 this year?
So I would tell you that the depth of the league in the middle of the league is very congested in a good way. There's so many good clubs there. But I'll give you Kansas. Kansas's position player group, the 9 starters, I mean, you're talking about 9 seniors, basically, like kids in their 4th or deeper year in college. And then they've got the preseason pitcher of the year in Dominic Vegley. So you give me an ace and an old, experienced position player group, and I'm in on that. I'll bet on that all day long.
Yeah, Dominic Vegley is lights out, and there is a real buzz around the Kansas pitcher. Last year, he was named Big 12 Freshman of the Year, and a lot of people are projecting big things for him this season. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, with Vegley, I see a kid who's got real arm strength. Like it's 93 to 96 miles an hour. Who can pitch? It's not just a big, sexy arm, and you know, it's like there's pitchability and there's stuff. He's got a tremendous off-speed arsenal, and he was a player that Kansas felt very fortunate to sign, and then very fortunate to get through the draft in high school. Like those types of kids are hard to get to campus, and he was everything they thought he would be and more last year. And you just feel like the progression. You know, I just think Kansas in general under Dan Fitzgerald, this is year 3. The program has just continued to escalate, and yeah, I'm very bullish on Kansas going into this year.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to call one of this guy Vegley's games last year. King, mesmerizing. Like one of those guys you just got to see. You mentioned it. He's got the big arm, but he's also extremely crafty. So a real reason for folks to watch. Mike, thank you so much for joining us, dude. We really appreciate the time, especially because, you know, you got to be real busy. We're ramping up here. Almost time, man. So happy Christmas Eve, and thank you so much for joining us.
You got it. Thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you.
All right, when Inside the 12 returns, we close out the show with a look at this weekend's slate of Big 12 men's hoops action and the games you have got to see. Inside the 12 continues as we are 3 weeks away from the 2025 Phillips 66 Men's Basketball Championship. Teams are jockeying for seeding. Plenty of big games and storylines this weekend, and a lot on the line for Kansas State at BYU. We're talking about TCU and Arizona State. A lot of big games coming up. What to watch, presented by Children's Health. We're going to start with West Virginia at Baylor. You're going to be on that game. 2 p.m. on ESPN2. What do you feel Baylor needs to do to get that win at home? That's going to be a huge game for them.
Yeah, well, they can't do this, Pete, but I know they wish they could. Get Josh Ojonwuna back. Oof. I mean, the injury is so devastating.
Yeah.
Because when you look how the roster was constructed, you have Josh Ojonwuna, and the backup 5 was Norchad. And then you don't have a guy that can play at the 5 spot. So now you have no Josh Ojonwuna, so you have to start Norchad at the 5. And we've seen at times Norchad is a little bit foul prone, can pick up 2-3 fouls early. And if he's on the bench and he needs a break or he gets in foul trouble, who's the backup 5?
Yeah.
You got to go with Celestine. Celestine at the 5, and you know he's not a true 5. So I'm interested to see if Coach DeVries really attacks the inside and the interior of Baylor, but they have to be able to figure it out at the 5 spot.
Yeah, and we get on Norchad Omier because of his fouling, but it's just because we love it so much, right? Like the competitive fire he brings to the Big 12 and to Baylor. And when he's not on the floor, that team has a huge hole in the middle. All right, Cincinnati, number 10, Iowa State. That is going to be 4 Eastern on ESPN2. Cincinnati's won 3 straight games. What's it going to take to make it 4?
They have to knock down shots. We talked about Jizzle James earlier on in the show. When you look at him, when you look at Day Thomas, these 2 guys have to play better than Lipsey and Gilbert. I think whichever backcourt plays the best in this game will be the winner. If Cincinnati can continue to make shots, their offense is rolling, they're able to starting to score more points. I think whoever plays better, the backcourt, will win this game. Jizzle James, Day Thomas have to have big nights.
If you had to pick one reason that Cincinnati's turned it around, what is it?
I think it's the guard play. I think it's Jizzle James and Day Thomas. I mean, that would be my probably 2 reasons. But it'd be those 2 guys. I mean, Lukosius is up and down. Skillings is up and down. Dylan Mitchell is just really more like a lob threat defender. But those 2 guys, when you look at their numbers and you look at their progression of the season, they have been constant. They have been the reason why teams are struggling to guard them. They get into the lane whenever they want to. They can make the right read or pass in the basketball, and they can knock down shots. Jizzle James, Day Thomas have to have big nights.
We talked about Houston's ability to knock down shots this season. L.J. Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp, 2 very big reasons. They're 6th in the country as they head to play number 13 Arizona. That's going to be 2 p.m. on ESPN on Saturday. Starting with Houston, what are your thoughts?
Well, Emmanuel Sharp finally got back to who he was last game against Baylor. Because you look at the last 5 games, he's been in single digits every single game except the last one. We finally saw a small glimpse of who he is, him being more aggressive. I think the ankle injury honestly bothered him more than, people would, tend to lead on. But I think the last game, he's trending in the right direction. He has to have a big night. When you look at the guards of the backcourt of Arizona, I think that Houston can match up with them. But they can't do it unless they have a full trio of Sharp, Uzan, and Cryer. Sharp has to be really, really good.
Well, they had a tough shooting night, Arizona did, when they were playing at Kansas State. How do they turn that around? Is that something that'll just change, or is that who they are?
I just think that was one bad night. That was an abysmal night. That was probably one of the worst shooting performances I've seen all season by any team.
But in Kansas State was ice cold, too.
And Kansas State was ice cold, too. But I think that's also part of just Kansas State being so hot right now. Mm-hmm. Like, they just have the aura. They have the presence of God on that side right now, right? But
they got Jerome Tang.
They got Jerome Tang 100%. But I really do think that was just an off night. And I think that I won't repeat. What are the odds of that, right?
No, yeah.
So I truly think that if they can knock down shots, because you have to against this Houston defense, when Houston monsters you on the low block and they send 2, you have the advantage on the backside. You have to be able to knock down those shots, or you have no chance beating Houston.
All right, after this, you're going to tell me what the monster is, because everybody's talking about that monster defense. All right, that is all from my man King McClure, and of course, I am Pete Souza. That's all for us this week. We thank you so much for watching Inside the 12.